All the way from the start, I can feel it in my heart, like all the way from the start.
Hey, what's going on out there? I'm Sean Devine. Hope you all are doing well. Today I've got a new video where we are going to mix a verse from scratch using only Waves plugins. This is by request. We're also going to use a really cool free utility plugin from Waves called Studio Rack. If you have not heard of Studio Rack, very flexible plugin that can load complex vocal chains, all kinds of different effects chains in your mixes in one plugin, and then we can control a lot of different parameters with it. But let me go ahead and play back this verse. The only thing that I've done with this so far is routed the verse, the backgrounds, as well as the ad-libs to their own aux track. And then we're going to go ahead and start mixing here in a minute.
Girl, it's your birthday, and you're single. Your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle. You make your own ends, so you don't need a man. Tryna finesse you with the game, but you just flip all day in the gym, working on that body, stretching real low, do Pilates. I'm just tryna make you mine. Hope you see that, that one man you can't let go of, girl. I'm tryna be that, yeah. Ride that like a server. Let me see you drop it low and work more.
All right, so that gives you a good idea of what we're working with. This is a track by Moses Stone. It is his single. It's called Body. Came out here a couple weeks ago, so go check that out. We'll get to the ad-libs shortly, but let's go ahead and start with just the main verse layer, and then we'll move on to the backgrounds and the ad-libs. I'm going to mute those backgrounds for now, and we're going to go ahead and put on the Studio Rack plugin. So that is again a Waves utility. This is free. You can download it in your Waves account. All right, so this is what Studio Rack looks like. It gives you 8 independent slots for different plugins, and then we have quick keys that we can assign to any parameter within the plugins, and then obviously we have input and output controls. So let's start off with the first plugin. I'm going to do a little bit of gating, and I like the Audio Track plugin just because we have control over the gate, but then also we have a kind of utility EQ that I like to do a little bit of low roll off and maybe get rid of some low mids if needed. So we'll use this first, and I'm going to just solo the verse, and let's just hear what's going on kind of in the in-between spaces here of the verse if we've got some noise.
Girl, it's your birthday, and you're single. Your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle. You make your own ends, so you don't need a man. Working on that body, stretching real low, make you mine. Hope you see it.
So we've definitely got some headphone bleed as well as just some kind of static in there. So I'm going to use the gate. We're going to use this sparingly. Again, we don't want to cut off any words, but we do want to make sure that we can get rid of some of that and just clean it up overall. We don't want to then compress that noise and the unwanted parts of the take.
Make you mine. Hope you see that. That one man you can't let go of, girl. I'm tryna be there. Yeah. Ride that like be there. Yeah. Ride that like a server. Be there. Yeah. Ride that like.
So the easiest way to set your gate is to go to a part like that where you just heard that we've got a good amount of silence, and we can just hear that any of that headphone bleed of that noise floor. We can make sure to set the threshold to have the gate attenuate that.
Yeah, ride that like a server.
I'm going to slow down the attack just a little bit, and this is just the time it takes for that gate to begin attenuating, and then we'll set the release pretty quickly. It should be okay where it's at, but we'll adjust that. Now, I am setting the threshold a little bit higher than I normally would, just because the volume of the takes is a little higher than I would normally record them at, but that's okay. We're going to do that, and then now we're going to go ahead and get rid of some of the low end. There is quite a bit of low end here that I don't necessarily need, and we don't want to compress. Again, big part of mixing at this stage is getting rid of the unwanted stuff. So unwanted noise, unwanted low frequencies, maybe you got some low mid buildup. So let's go ahead and get rid of some of that.
Single, your ex ain't do you.
So I'm going to activate band 1 here. And I'm going to go over here and set our low cut, and I'm going to move this up to, let's say, about 100.
Single, your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle, you make your own ends, so
as I've talked about before, if we start going too high with it, sounds like we're talking through a telephone or a walkie-talkie, and we don't want that.
single, your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle, you make your own ends, so you don't need a man, tryna finesse you with the game, but you just flips all day in the gym, working on that body, stretching real low.
So I just moved the gate back. As I'm listening, I'm hearing a little bit of the breaths and things that I don't necessarily want to have real choppy. So just adjust that by ear. And then let's cut off a little bit of the low mids, somewhere in between 250 and 500.
Single, your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle, you make your own ends, so you don't need a man, tryna finesse you with the
So I'm just kind of scanning the frequencies and looking for the boxiness. And again, we usually get that in that 200 to 500 range. So let's take this down.
single, your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle, you make your own ends, so you don't need a man, tryna finesse you with the game, but you just flip.
So I think that's a good start in terms of just our reductive EQ as well as the gate. I'm not going to do any compression with the audio track, although this is a good utility. Let's go ahead and move on to compression. And obviously we want to do that with the beat so we can get things sitting in the pocket. And for this, I'm going to use the R-Comp, just a great utility compressor. A lot of good tones with this one.
Birthday, you're single, your ex ain't
So what I want to do first is just go ahead and set our ratio to, somewhere between 3 to 1 and 5 to 1. Let's start with maybe 4 to 1 for now. I'm going to speed the attack up just a little bit and then slow the release down, and we'll adjust this accordingly. And then we're going to slowly lower the threshold until we start seeing some gain reduction, some attenuation. And then I may adjust the gain as well. We're introducing gain reduction with the compressor. This is just a handy gain to reach for conveniently on the compressor to make up for that reduction.
birthday, you're single, your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle, you make your own ends,
So just watching our attenuation meter, there are no rules in terms of how much to attenuate. It just varies depending on the vocal. But once I see, between 3 and 6 dB of gain reduction on a compressor, I want to start to then mix in the signal and kind of see where we're at, and then we can go make some adjustments if needed.
birthday, you're single, your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle, you make your own ends, so you don't need a man, tryna finesse you with the game, but you just flips all day in the gym, working on that body, stretching real low, do Pilates, I'm just tryna make you mine.
So right there at about 4 to 1, I feel like things are in the pocket. I just adjusted that output gain once we got that gain reduction. And I think that's a good starting point for us. So let's go ahead and move to our EQ. We're going to do some additive EQ now. And I really am liking the, where is it? I'm really liking the VEQ4. This is kind of like a Neve style EQ. And we're just going to go ahead and rotate this knob all the way to 15K. 15K probably sounds pretty high for some of y'all, but it's just going to give us that air and sparkle on top of the vocal.
Birthday, you're single, your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle.
So as you can hear immediately, we start to get a little bit sibilant, a little bit harsh. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a de-esser. This is a method that I've shown in a lot of my videos, and I love the Waves de-esser. It's my favorite de-esser. Use it all the time. And so we're going to feed that boost EQ, or that high boost in the EQ, into the de-esser. And that's going to prevent this sibilance from happening, but it's still going to allow us to get the brightness. So first thing I want to do is I want to set this side chain to band pass. This is just going to give us a smoother result. And then we're going to lower this frequency down a little bit, and then we'll start to bring the threshold down.
Birthday, you're single, your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle, you make your own ends, so you don't need a man, tryna finesse you with the
So let's set it there for now and then go back to the EQ.
birthday, just single. Your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle. You make your own ends, so you don't need a man. Tryna finesse you with the game, but you just flips all day.
So I just hit that analog. This Waves has a way of adding a little bit of analog character. It's sometimes it can be heard as just noise, but I do think that it adds a little subtle saturation there. So I'm gonna leave that on the output module there. And then that sounds pretty good with the de-esser. We'll leave that parked. We may come back to it, but let's go ahead and let's add some reverb here just to give us a nice sense of space. The R-verb, Renaissance reverb, and I'm going to EQ it. So we're going to EQ the reverb here. I am going to bring that up to about 500. Don't want to add a lot of space to any of the frequency information below that. And then we're going to roll the highs off a little bit as well. I'm going to solo this. So we'll just bring the wet dry down. Obviously, we don't want it to be that wet.
Birthday, and just single. Your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle. You make your
Pretty nice. Still pretty big, though. I'm going to bring the time down.
birthday, and just single. Your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle. You make your own ends, so you don't need a man. Tryna finesse you with the game, but you just flips all day in the gym. Working on that body, stretching real low, do Pilates. I'm just tryna make you mine. Hope you see that. That one man you can't let go of, girl. I'm tryna be that. Yeah, ride that like a surfboard. Let me see you drop it low and work more. I ain't tryna waste your time. Need to know if you be mine. Play no games with your girl. Nah.
That sounds pretty good. We got a nice subtle space there. Again, I don't want it to be too washy, but overall that will work pretty well. So let's excite the vocal just a little bit. I'm going to add a doubler, and I'm just kind of going in my own little order here. We're going to move this plugin around. This is a great thing about Studio Rack is it's modular, so you can move the order of it. So if you're going through it, and like I am now, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself with the reverb, but we can just move it after. It's not a problem. I'm going to go to the doubler, select doubler 2, and we're going to just go ahead and make sure that that reverb is last. And I'm going to go over to the doubler, and we are going to do some subtle panning or widening with these two voices down here. So if we just take those off right now in the doubler, this is our direct signal.
Birthday, and just single. Your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle.
So then we add two voices down here, and you're going to see that right now they're panned. I'm actually going to bring those back in volume just a little bit. We'll keep them wide panned. And then we have a delay on each of these. Let me take the detune off of here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute the direct and let you just hear the duplicates that doubler is creating here.
Birthday, and just single. Your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle. You make your own ends.
So you can hear as I adjust the delay there, we're getting a more exaggerated stereo effect. And then when we mix these back in with the direct,
Birthday, and just single. Your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle. You make your own ends, so
we get a lot wider, a little bit of a kind of a chorusing effect there. So I'm going to turn these back. You can make this as obvious or as subtle as you want. And then you can even detune them a little bit. So let's just say we detune them just a touch, just to give us a little bit more chorusing.
birthday, and just single. Your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle. You make your own ends, so you don't need a man. Tryna finesse you with the game, but you just flips all day in the gym.
So without the doubler
Birthday, and just single. Your
and with,
birthday, and just single. Your ex ain't do you right, you tryna mingle. You make your own ends, so you don't need a man. Tryna finesse you with the game, but you just flips all day in the gym. Working on that body, stretching real low.
pretty cool, huh? Adds a nice space to it. Subtle little effect there that I like to use. So now let's go ahead and add a little bit of delay. Again, we're just going to add a little bit more excitement to the vocal. Going to use H delay. This is one of my favorites. And again, I'm going to slide that H delay up, keep the reverb last in the chain, and we're going to do a little bit of ping pong. I am going to turn the analog off on the H delay. If you listen closely right now, You can hear it's adding some white noise. I don't personally like that effect, so I'm going to turn that off. And then we're going to turn the dry wet down.
Just single, your ex ain't do you right.
And I'm going to do probably an 8th note delay. This is totally up to you. I like to do a little bit faster direct delay if I'm doing something right on the vocal. You know, maybe we do automation throws and things to get different delays, slower delays for certain parts. But again, if I'm using it as a direct insert, I like to do something a little quicker, maybe an 8th, sometimes even a 16th delay, just to give us, again, a subtle stereo widening and just exciting effect.
Birthday, just single, your ex ain't do you right. You tryna mingle, you make your own ends, so you.
Let's hear what it sounds like with a quarter note, just with this little bit slower tempo.
Birthday, just single, your ex ain't do you right. You tryna mingle, you make your own ends, so you don't need a man tryna finesse you with the game, but you just flips all day in the gym, working on that body, stretching real low, do Pilates. I'm just tryna make you mine. Hope you see that one man you can't let go of, girl. I'm tryna be.
So once I put the delay on, we're getting a pretty nice stereo effect, and it does make the reverb sound a little bit too washy to me, coupled with that. So I just brought that back, and that just balances it out a little bit. And I also was just using the filter to make this delay more subtle. Obviously, I don't want it to be distracting. One last thing, I'm going to reach for this feedback, and we're going to adjust this. If you've noticed on the H delay, if you leave this up here, it will ring out for a really long time. So let me play this.
Like a surfboard.
That's a pretty long echo, so we're going to bring that feedback down quite a bit.
Like a surfboard. Let me see you.
So that's much better. That way we're not going to get too much of a washed out sound. So that sounds pretty good, y'all, for the main verse. In the next video, we are going to mix our background vocals. We're going to do some cool panning and balancing with those, and we are going to process them in a very similar way that we did here with Studio Rack. So it's going to be fun. Stay tuned for the next video with the background vocals. If you like what you heard here, I did just release a complete preset collection called Divine Mixing Vocal Chains V2. It utilizes this same technology, Studio Rack, as well as Waves Gold and Waves SSL. So if you're interested, check out that on my website. If you learned anything in the video, please like, subscribe, and consider sharing. And we'll talk to you soon.
It's all up to you. See, I ain't playing with you. I need to know now, cause we ain't got no time to waste, so even slow down. Baby, tell me about you, get to know you, what you seen, boo. All the things you've been through, everything you into. We ain't gotta get too deep. All of